Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this clown decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And this has to be one of the most clown decade things I've ever seen in my life. There's no point beating around the bush, we may as well just get into this one. So Channel 4 Dispatches, which if people don't know, Channel 4 is a His Majesty's government-owned channel in the UK, broadcast media channel, that was originally set up as an alternative to the BBC, and it is effectively fully funded by adverts and is effectively run as a business. However, ultimately it is owned by the government, which is why it's surprising when I saw this tweet. The royals make millions in profit each year, but this has always been shrouded in secrecy until now. A joint Channel 4 Dispatches and the Times investigation reveals that the King and Prince William are receiving public money through leasing property to public services like the NHS. And I cannot tell you how little surprise there is in the entirety of Britain to find this out. So it comes with a little clip, we may as well take a look at it.
Tonight, what Charles and William aren't telling you about their secret millions.
I literally cannot tell you how little I care that the monarchy has literal millions in profit. Of course they do. They're the monarchy. Do you think that just means vibes? Do you think that just means essays? Do you think that just means symbolism? No. They are literally the monarchy of Britain. Of course they own land in Britain, and of course they make money off it. Why would anyone be shocked by that?
Their private estates, the Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, make Charles and William £50 million a year.
Do you think duchy? Do you think a dukedom, being a duke, do you think that's just vibes? Is that just symbolism? No. It means literally owning land in Cornwall and Lancashire and obviously elsewhere in Britain. They're the British monarchs, for goodness sake. This is how beyond stupid this entire investigation is, because this is all basically publicly available information. So publicly available, there is literally a ministerial office for this. The Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster is a ministerial office in the government of the United Kingdom. Excluding the Prime Minister, the Chancellor is the highest ranking minister in the Cabinet Office, immediately after the Prime Minister, and senior to the Minister for the Cabinet Office. The role includes as part of its duties the administration of estates and rents of the Duchy of Lancaster. The job is literally to oversee if Prince William's and the King's assets are making money. That is literally the point of this role. And all of a sudden Channel 4 is saying, did you know that this ministerial role, it makes secret millions for the government? No, this is all publicly available information. This is embarrassing on every front. Of course, Wikipedia goes on to explain that while this is the official role, and is effectively just a position in the cabinet to effectively be an advisor to the Prime Minister. But still, once again, the point being is that everything to do with the King and Prince William's money is basically entirely public. This is not shocking to anyone.
But they have repeatedly refused to reveal exactly which properties they own.
Okay, I'm not going to lie to you here. I don't care. There are so many foreign investors who own a whole bunch of properties throughout the United Kingdom. I would be much more interested in that than what our literal monarch owns in his own kingdom.
Can we have a report on the list of properties?
I don't see why.
That was it? That was your example? Some government select committee asking, can we have a list of properties that the government that the king owns, sorry, and a minister or civil servant saying, why do you need to know? Like, yeah, I don't care. I'm much more interested in what some Saudis own, what some Russians own, what some Chinese own. I don't care what the king owns in his own kingdom.
And details of how these estates make their staggering profits and from where have remained secret until now.
I would not be shocked if these were all found through basic Freedom of Information requests. If this was mainly done through the Freedom of Information Act, this is not secret. This is just trying to get people to watch because it's like, oh, this is spy stuff, this is excellent journalism. And no, they just sent a couple of emails to the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster asking them the information that's freely available anyway, due to the Freedom of Information Act.
Wow.
God almighty.
This is a really, really important revelation.
Monarchy of Britain owns British assets and land. Apparently that's a revelation.
Thousands of documents obtained by dispatches reveal how hard up government departments, schools, and even the NHS are helping to keep the cash rolling in for Charles and William.
Amazing. Again, this is all done through the government. They know when they're paying the monarch for using the monarch's assets and land. Why wouldn't they be paid for stuff that they owe to be leased? What do you mean this is a revelation? This is nonsense.
He's making money off us, isn't he? Making money off the poor person,
Yes, the king is definitely taking money out of poor people's pockets. That's what he's doing by leasing out his land to public services like gas pipes and the NHS and schools. Of course, a Scouser's understanding of this is nonsense.
It's all shrouded in secrecy, isn't it? I don't know why we don't find out more about it, actually.
You are free in Britain to make freedom of information requests at your pleasure. It is not shrouded in secrecy if they literally just give you the information after a request.
Our evidence shows how the commercial activities of these private estates are undermining their environmental commitments.
What, are you going to try and say because they lease out to gas companies for gas pipes, they are ruining the environment? Come off it. What is this? They own land and property and lease it out. What do you mean it's ruining the environmental commitments?
Well, this is the worst performing kind of property.
Well, we can reveal to you that the landlord we are talking about is the Duchy of Cornwall, which was managed for about 50 years by Charles, who is now the king,
Right.
and is now run by Prince William.
Okay, that does surprise me.
That is a man who is performing for camera. He doesn't care. Because nobody cares. It's just a complete nonsense. Ah yes, this 400-year-old property does not live up to the expectations that we have for well-insulated and energy-efficient homes. Yeah, I'm not shocked it was built 400 years ago.
I think when you own so much, it's hard to comprehend how people could appreciate such a small beach. They clearly don't understand who we are and what we value.
I have got literally no idea what the context of that was, by the way. What, the King and Prince William own a bit of a beach and there's work being done to it? Is that the problem? I have no idea what the context was there.
They are exempt from most of the taxes we all pay, and there are now calls for that to change.
I need specifics on that to understand exactly what taxes they're missing out on, but again, given how the Sovereign Wealth Fund works, I imagine it's a deal in that, well, basically all the money that they make actually goes to the government, and then the government gives them back some money in terms of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Like, they're still making money for Britain. They are still a net tax contributor, which is a lot more than can what be said for most of the people that have been commenting in this video so far.
This would be a brilliant time for the monarch to say, I'm going to be open and I want to be treated as fairly as anybody.
No, I think he should say, well, if I'm exempt from these taxes, so should everyone else. I hope he comes out and says that instead.
It is public money, it's taxpayers' money, it's your money, it's my money, it's the viewers' money.
Yeah, and apparently that money's been wasted in some extent to this dispatches that, again, is surprising nobody. Wow, did you know the king doesn't pay the same tax as you because there's this special rule with the Sovereign Wealth Fund? No, I didn't. I don't really care, though. Anyway, thankfully we don't need to watch that nonsense. We can just read it on the Times because it was a coalition effort between the Times and Channel 4 dispatches, and I'm not expecting great things from this report. So, revealed. The property empires that make Charles and William millions. The Sunday Times has uncovered every plot of land owned by the ancient duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, and the business deals with the NHS, schools and military that help fund the royals. Business deals effectively being rent agreements. The ancient property empires that fund the King and Prince of Wales have remained a closely guarded secret within the royal family and its small circle of advisors for centuries. Even Parliament has been denied access to the list of land holdings held by the royals. Today, a joint investigation by the Sunday Times and Channel 4's Dispatches programme revealed the full details of the property estates owned by Charles and Prince William and the tax-free business deals they have struck to maintain their wealth. The king is worth 610 million according to the Sunday Times Rich List. Wow. I'm not going to lie to you, I think it should be worth 100 times that. Here, for the first time, is every plot of land owned by the king and prince through their private fiefdoms, the Duchy of Lancaster and the Duchy of Cornwall. Again, do you think those titles are just symbolic? In a 5-month investigation, wow, what a waste of time, we used the royal addresses to uncover their business contracts and discovered how the duchies are making millions of pounds each year by charging government departments, councils, businesses, mining companies and general public via a series of commercial rents and feudal levies on land largely seized by medieval monarchs. And what we're talking land that they have owned for how many years would that be? What, 700? I think it's fair to say that it's not stolen by anyone living. I mean, honestly, have reparations got so incredibly stupid that we are saying we're going to try and find all these descendants of all these peasants and try and give this land back to them? What an absolutely insane thing to even suggest. The Duchy Files show that the royals charge for the right to cross rivers, okay, they own it, offload cargo onto the shore, they own it, run cables under their beaches, they own it, operate schools and charities, they own the assets, and even dig graves, they own the land. You have to pay to dig graves. You already have to pay for cemetery spots, for God's sake. They earn revenue from toll bridges, ferries, sewage pipes, churches, village halls, pubs, distilleries, gas pipelines, boat moorings, open cast and underground mines, car parks, rental homes and wind turbines. Wow. English monarchs own English land and you have to pay to use that land. How is this shocking? They operate as commercial landlords while having a special agreement with the Treasury exempting them from paying tax on their corporate profits. Wow, I wish everyone had that exemption. Fine. The duchies are not directly funded by taxpayer, but leases and contracts in the king and prince's own name show they are making millions of pounds a year by charging the army, navy, NHS, prison service and state schools to use their land, rivers and seashores. Yeah, that's typically what a lease means. We found that their land holdings include 37 commercial properties. Wow, some in London, some in Cornwall, who would have thunk? 2,682 mines, mining rights and drill sites. Wow, all over Yorkshire. Again, the English king owns English land. Shock. 10 schools and an NHS warehouse and a prison. Okay, is that it? This really isn't a bombshell. This is kind of what I assume the monarchy did. Of course they make millions. That's the whole point of the sovereign grant, is that they are paid a percentage of their earnings from all their properties. If it's in the millions, of course they own loads of them. How is this shocking? The royals' formal duties, palaces and official households are paid for each year by the sovereign grant. This is funded by an agreed percentage of income that the government-run Crown estate makes by managing land surrendered by the monarch 260 years ago. Next year, the grant will give the royals £132 million. Wow. Again, I think that should be more. But the king and prince also receive private incomes from the profit generated by their duchies. Last year, the Duchy of Lancaster raised £27.4 million for the king, and the Duchy of Cornwall raised £23.6 million for William, which they can use as they see fit, for example, to fund their private homes, personal income, and staff. Okay, I wouldn't be... Again, they also are patrons of quite a few charities. Let's not forget that as well. The Duchy's annual report discloses only basic details of property assets they hold. We obtain the reference number for 3,536 properties held by the Duchy of Lancaster and 1,874 held by the Duchy of Cornwall from the Land Registry. The reference numbers enable us to obtain the precise address for each land title and plot them on a digital map. I've seen it. I don't care. This article turned very quickly from "Aren't the monarchy so evil for owning land and charging people to lease that land?" to "Oh, we're giving ourselves a good old pat on the back for doing this really incisive and difficult journalism that involved looking up things on the land registry, which is basically all online for free." The Times added some scary-looking graphs to show, "Oh, look at this, look how much more profit they're making than a few years ago," which anyone with a brain would realise that given most of this comes from leasing land and leasing their properties, they are basically one-to-one correlated with house prices, with this average house prices graph showing that the peaks and troughs from the profits of the Duchy of Lancashire and Cornwall are pretty much one-to-one with the peaks and troughs of house prices. So it's not like they're being greedy or anything. This is just market forces. Again, I have no problem with that. They wouldn't be making these profits if we didn't effectively turn our economy into a housing market with an NHS tumour attached to it. And we're not going to go through everything here, but honestly, when you go into details, I'm more just interested, like watching an episode of QI than outraged. So there's a royal monopoly on the River Mersey. There are thousands of moments a day at Liverpool's new cargo port when a crane lifting a container across an imaginary boundary in the air and a virtual counter ticks. You gotta love that phrasing, an imaginary boundary. That's most borders. The border between you and your neighbour may have something physical there like a wall, but believe it or not, the boundary goes above that wall and below it. There are imaginary boundaries all over the place, but apparently this one's bad because it makes the king money. The king earns money each time it happens thanks to the ancient right of oversale. The monarch's Duchy of Lancaster charges at least 30 pence for each container transported between the ship and land, and the pennies all add up. Privately owned Liverpool 2 is Britain's largest transatlantic container terminal and has the capacity to handle more than 1 million containers a year. The port pays Charles a minimum of £150,000 a year, no matter how many containers cross the line, and much more if it's a bumper year for cargo loading on or off ships at the quayside. Since 2008, the Duchy has also received at least £560,000 from the Mersey Docks and Harbour Company to operate 4 75-metre-high wind turbines. They stand on a platform on the edge of the port, which is over a part of the riverbed owned by the king. Again, I cannot tell you how little I care about this. If you put wind turbine on somebody else's land, you obviously need to make a deal with them. This is the king's land, they made a deal with the king, and I'm not being funny. Renting a decent chunk of land for £35,000 a year, it's really not that shocking to me. If it wasn't worth the money, they wouldn't have put it there. If it wasn't worth the money to have all these containers moved, to pay the king to use, again, his land, they wouldn't do it, would they? Did you know that the king's making money off his land? Oh, like any other Englishman. Good man. Here's another one, 3 mining deals a year. Of the 5,410 plots of land in England and Wales revealed by the Duchy Files, 2,682 give the king and prince the right to mine for minerals. Just over a decade ago, the Duchy sent out letters to thousands of people reasserting their ownership of mineral rights dating back to feudal times over pockets of land across the country. Based. The letters advised homeowners that while they may own the land and buildings, the soil rock beneath them actually belonged to the royals. Yeah, that's quite typically how it works. This isn't unique to Britain. I don't know why anyone would think this is unique to Britain. This is how mineral rights work throughout the world. You either have a plot of land where you own the surface and the stuff beneath it, or that can also mean that underneath the ground, someone else owns everything, you own the land and, a few metres deep to build a basement or something, that bit of land, but that gives other people the right to dig under your house, assuming, it doesn't destroy the foundations or anything, but that's very unlikely to happen because they'll be digging like 2 miles deep. The royal estate said that getting in touch with a formality required because of changes to the land registry rules. This application is solely to protect our rights and does not indicate that the Duchy had any present intention to work on the minerals, the Duchy of Cornwall wrote. Fine. Since then, duchies have been active in selling the rights to mining companies, allowing them to dig and drill in protected landscapes. Need more details than this. In the past 8 months, Duchy of Cornwall has struck 3 mineral rights deals. In March last year, it signed a licence agreement with Cornwall Resources Limited, a subsidiary of the multinational firm Strategic Minerals, which gave the firm the go-ahead to drill for metal deposits in the Tama Valley's designated area of natural beauty. Now, this is actually in my area of expertise because I did a degree in geology and geophysics. And when it comes to modern techniques to mine for minerals or even do some explorative mineral searching, if you want to call it that, it's really not that damaging to the environment. We're pretty good at actually protecting these areas of natural beauty, and we're pretty good at either hiding the mine if it needs to be an open air one, or if it's a closed one where, you'll designate an area a couple of football pitches big, and it'll be pretty well hidden behind either a load of foliage or in a particular valley or something like that. And it can be within areas of natural beauty and keep the areas of natural beauty beautiful. It's completely fine. It's pretty well regulated. But obviously when people think of this sort of thing, they think of massive open pit mines where it just destroys the area with all the smog and all the heavy vehicles going in and out, which obviously there'll be heavy vehicles, but I'm not being funny. Rural areas are designed for tractors and combine harvesters. They'll be fine with lorries. In the Great Wheelvore area, a campaign group of local people last month wrote to the King and Prince William to protest. The letter stated that the Duchy's granting of drilling licences to mining companies was inconsistent with the royal public statement about the importance of protecting the environment. The Duchy replied, simply stating that their comments were noted. Based. It privately argues that the mining licences are merely a response to the government's industrial strategy to source rare minerals in the UK. Yes, because if we don't, we have to buy them from China. It's just not sensible. The Duchy of Cornwall has already been making hundreds of thousands of pounds from a deal with the German company Heidelberg Materials, which operates a large open cast quarry below in the Tamar Valley. Heidelberg has long been a target of environmental groups as one of Europe's biggest CO2 emitters, probably nowhere near as big as China still. The Hissington Down quarry was first opened 100 years ago, but has been very active over the past 2 decades. Residents who live nearby, such as Vanessa Peel, complain about the monthly explosions to dislodge tons of rocks from the hillside, which they compare to the aftershock of an earthquake. First you hear the boom, then you feel it, said Peel. Now, I have been at a quarry as they blow up a whole ton of rock to obviously make it much easier to mine in these open cast quarries. And again, this quarry that I went to was very well hidden in the lovely leafy rural areas of Leicestershire. They make it very clear when an explosion is about to happen. There's a big old siren. Everyone has to get to, a safe place. Well, they probably already would have been in a safe place for about an hour before. Big explosion goes off, you feel the shockwave, and that's it. It's like a small earthquake. When I mean small, I mean like a lorry going past you. I mean like 2 on the Richter scale. If you bought a house next to a quarry that is 100 years old, don't be shocked when things that are quarry-like end up happening. It's like when people complain that they buy a house next to a pub and then, there's noise at 1 a.m. You bought a house next to a pub. But this is just typical of this whole article. This is the last couple I'll go through. The King also stands to make millions from mining giant Anglo American, which is building a vast potash mine called Woodsmith on the protected North York Moors National Park. The project initially run, and again, there's already loads of quarries in a load of national parks. It's so meaningless to me when they say that. The project, initially run by a company called Sirius, sparked a mini gold rush and was heavily supported by landowners who stood to make money from the scheme and local residents who bought shares in Sirius. Sounds like a good deal. Objections came from a dozen of environmental bodies, including 2 that the King represents as a patron, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, and the Campaign to Protect Rural England. The North Yorkshire Moors Association points out the incongruity of citing a large, heavy industrial estate in a protected area of outstanding natural beauty. Again, these already exist in loads of national parks. It's so meaningless. After constructing the mine building, Sirius suffered a severe cash crisis and the company was bought by Anglo American. The work to sink the shafts has been slowed down and the mine remains part finished. However, the King's Duchy is still receiving £102,000 a year under the terms of its 70-year lease with the mine. It's making money from a deal it made, who cares? If the mine becomes fully operational, the Duchy will get £256,000 a year in rent and 2.5% of the mineral sales, potentially earning Charles tens of millions of pounds. Sounds like a good deal. Again, it's amazing. Did you know the King's this really savvy businessman? Good, I'm glad to hear it. What a great guy. I'm glad to see he's just not wasting the potential of all of this land and all of these assets he owns. Honestly, to these people, making any sort of money is just seen as evil. And I don't care for it. I don't care. But I think the most ridiculous part is this. So, the contract below reveals that to use the 227,000 square foot 2-storey warehouse, the NHS is paying a rent of £829,348 a year to the King's Duchy. That will amount to at least £11,004 over 15 years, which is about 5 minutes of NHS spending. The lease shows that the rent charged by the Duchy from the NHS is 67% more than the £15 per square foot that was being paid by the Metropolitan Police, which vacated the same warehouse only a few months earlier. Yeah, but I wouldn't be shocked if that was a long-term deal with the Metropolitan Police, which they wrote up 15 years before this, and hence the rent was cheaper. And secondly, this is on the NHS because they made a bad deal. They probably did the same thing with the Met Police. Oh, here's our offer for the lease. Metropolitan Police. Oh, can you go lower? Yeah, all right, let's go a bit lower then. And so they did. NHS, oh, we just get cash thrown at us. Yeah, we'll pay whatever for this. There's more to this story than, oh, isn't the Duchy of Cornwall greedy? No, not really. I think the NHS is incompetent. In 2011, Charles struck a deal to charge St John's Ambulance, a charity of which the King is now a patron, a one-off payment of £60,000 to lease a garage in Panbury, his Duchy-built model town in Dorset. I'm not being funny, that genuinely sounds like a bargain. A one-off payment of £60,000 for a garage in the south. Do you understand how expensive these things are in the south? I know like 10 square feet garages that cost more than my house in Wales. £60,000 is a bargain to basically use it forever. Are you serious? Just down the road, the Duchy charged the Dorset Fire Authority an upfront payment of £612,000 to lease land over 125 years for a new fire station, which was required to be designed in a mock Georgian style, including a balcony. I took the picture out, doesn't really matter, to fit in with Charles's architectural vision for the town. They paid money, an upfront cost. I don't know if there's any more money that needs to be spent on this. In fact, it says here, Devon County Council also pays the Duchy £300 a year, amounting to £15,000 over its 50-year lease, to use the fire station in Princetown on Dartmoor. So there's an upfront cost of £612,000 for a relatively big plot of land to be used as a fire station, and then the rent is £300 a year, which is absolutely nothing when it comes to renting, let alone monthly. That is a year's cost. This is basically charity, and I do mean that. This is how absolutely absurd this investigation is. What has it found? The NHS is incompetent when it's trying to save money. Well, we already knew that. And Charles has actually been quite charitable when it comes to leasing his own land to public services. I can't be bothered going through any more. In fact, no, I'll finish on the school one. The state school that sit on the Duchy land are not spared the royal rent requirements either. The Duchy of Cornwall struck a deal in 2017 to charge Devon County Council at least £319 in rental fees over 21 years for the right to use Princeton Community Primary School on Dartmoor. Again, that's about £15,000 a year. It's absolutely nothing. It's basically charity. Finally, the Duchy is also charging Farrington Gurney Church of England Primary School near Bath £60,000 for the use of its premises over 25 years. Basically charity. I am not shocked he's got tax exempt from this. He's basically giving them away. Honestly, this is such a blatant hit piece that actually when you think about it for more than just what the article is telling you, it's actually an absolute bargain for everyone involved. And when it is actually a business contract, it's completely mutually beneficial to absolutely everyone involved. All I'm gathering from this is that, in fact, the King and Prince of Wales are very charitable, and then when they are being businessmen, they are very shrewd with their business dealings. I am really glad to hear that the King and the next in line to the throne is a shrewd businessman and is charitable. They are two things I really like about the monarchs and the monarch-to-be. Anyway, I think that's going to do for today. So, obviously this video was recorded in advance because I am away. This should be released on Wednesday, I think. But I will be back to normal with streams on Saturday with Laughing at the Guardian, so do come along to that on Saturday. Next Monday we are back with the Antiquity stream. Next Tuesday we will be doing a Tosh Talks. Don't know what the topic is yet, obviously. And of course, content will be back to the regular schedule, which, to be honest, I think I've done pretty well to get 2 videos out this week. Anyway, I've just made 2 videos in a row and it's getting to my head. So I think with that is everything I had for you for today. So please do subscribe, become a channel member, send super thanks and super chats, send the video to anyone you think interested. And once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.